Good morning, everybody. My name is Michael Galoyu Jr. I'm chair of the Stonewall Caucus. I want to thank you all for joining us here today for our monthly meeting. We are very pleased to have a special guest today representing the Hawaii for Biden campaign. We have the liaison. Was that the correct title for today?
Yeah,
Tyler Santos-Tam.
muchacho. I don't know. Pick
Okay.
a title.
So take it away, Tyler. The floor is all yours. Thank
Well,
you.
thank you, Michael, and thank you to everyone who joined this morning. I'm Tyler Dos Santos Tam. I was the head of the Biden campaign in 2020, and I guess that by default for the time being, I'm helping with the 2024 election. We say each and every election that this is the most important election of our lifetime, and every year that seems to be truer and truer. And we kind of watch as what's happening all across the country in New York and Georgia and Washington, D.C., and who knows where else, where the Republican frontrunner is being indicted. And we see Joe Biden and Kamala Harris working their butts off to try to save this country, get inflation back under control, continue their amazing track record of creating jobs coming out of the COVID pandemic and racking up wind structure, clean energy, and a whole lot more. In order to continue that momentum, of course, they're going to need a lot of support going into 2024. And I know, first and foremost, the most important way that we can support is through fundraising. And here in Hawaii, we've because of the fires on Maui, I think a lot of people may be tapped out a little bit. So we're going to hold off on that effort a little bit, but it is important. And we do have a goal of trying to raise $100,000 from Hawaii by the end of the year. We're hoping soon to have a single link for all the Hawaii donations to flow through so we can easily track all the large and small Hawaii donations that come through to really show that we in Hawaii are serious about re-electing Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. We are also hoping to have a kind of larger fundraiser by the end of the year. But again, Maui, of course, takes priority, especially with people's limited resources. So we're kind of in the holding pattern there, but we do hope to have something by the end of the year, some kind of reception to help catalyze both large and small donations from the Aloha State. We also want to sign up 100 volunteers by the end of the year. And we're not asking people to sign up to immediately call or text because we are over a year out from the election and we're about 11 months away from it being really crunch time. But we want to know that we have a ready to go stable of volunteers. So when the time is right, when we do need to start flipping the switch, so to speak, to call or text into these swing states, we want to know that people are ready to go. And so fairly soon, we will also have a sign-up link for people to be ready to volunteer and say, whenever the time is, whether it's spring or summer or fall of next year, I'm ready to go and I'm ready to do all of these things, call, text, potentially travel, etc. We're also looking for people who want to be on some of the planning committees for the Hawaii for Biden effort. We do have the luxury, of course, of working to re-elect an incumbent president. So we're not, divided into little camps for each individual candidate like we kind of were at this point in the previous cycle. So we are looking for people to be on committees like the fundraising committee. That'll help us to catalyze some of these small and large donations that might come from Hawaii and help to plan some kind of event that will be a reception for those donors. We're looking for people to plug into neighbor island efforts. This is an area where we want to make sure everyone across the state is engaged. It's not just a Honolulu-centric effort. In 2020, I was really proud of our neighbor islanders who organized sign wavings, set up their own schedules. We shipped them the signs and stickers and everything else. They would be ready to go. And the sign waving doesn't necessarily help with, people voting for Biden here in Hawaii, but it helps to catalyze volunteers, because if you're willing to go stand in the sun for 2 hours and sign wave, you'd probably also be willing to call or text for at least an hour on a Saturday morning. to go reach some folks in these swing states. And so the sign waving is really a means to the end of just getting more volunteers out. And so we're looking for people, particularly on the neighbor islands, who are willing to help with that. And then all of the affinity groups, just like in 2020, we had really active, for this group, LGBTQ Americans, for Biden, veterans, Filipinos, Japanese, Native Hawaiians for Biden. We had all of these groups with folks here who are plugged in. There are national networks representing all of these affinity groups that are in different stages of being set up. But again, the point of our efforts right now, coming into the fall of 2023, is to be ready here in Hawaii to plug into whatever affinity groups or organizations there are all across this country to help get Joe Biden and Kamala Harris reelected. So just to recap, fundraising, again, by the end of the year, we're hoping to raise about $100,000 from Hawaii through kind of a centralized donation portal. This is, of course, a little bit sensitive given the wildfire situation on Maui. We want to also sign up 100 volunteers by the end of the year so they're ready to go next year when we really need them. And then we're looking for people to be on various committees, fundraising, our neighbor island kind of committee folks to help organize people over there, and then all of the affinity groups, and in particular, our LGBTQ plus Americans for Biden. So that's that. It's, again, very preliminary, but we welcome, of course, anybody who's willing to give any amount of time going into next year to help make sure that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are reelected, and it's not anybody else.
Are you open to questions?
Yeah, questions.
Any questions?
Or comments.
Or comments. There you go. Oh, yeah. Oh, open that can of worms. Why don't you? Okay, so questions or comments for Tyler with the parameters that it's very preliminary. Go ahead, Lynn.
Hi, Tyler. Thanks for being here today. Thanks for taking the lead on this. Of course, you will have my full support, and I'll be happy to volunteer in any way I can and help to recruit other volunteers. So at this point, we do not have a link. We're just very preliminary.
Not yet. It's very preliminary, but we hope to have that soon.
Okay, good. We'll make sure and get it out as soon as you have it.
Awesome.
Thanks again.
Any other questions, comments? Wow. You all are very shy. I'm so shocked. Okay, on that note, I want to thank Tyler for being here. We do want to say that should any of the other campaigns that are talking about running for president want to come and address the Stonewall Caucus, we'll be more than welcome to happy to have them. But we are following the DNC's guidelines on this, and with leading with and the request coming out of the DNC to make sure that we have this opportunity for our incumbent president to get him reelected. And that's party standard, so everybody understands that. We are not doing anything against party rules or party standards by having today's presentation. So again, thank you, Tyler. We look forward to getting the information from you. Once we have anything that you have, we will push out to our members to encourage them to participate. Alrighty, so
awesome. And I'm happy to come back maybe next quarter when there's a little bit more information and a little bit more concrete steps that we can all take just to check back in and report back.
Before you go, Joe has a question.
Thanks, Michael, and thanks, Tyler. It's great to see that you're involved in this effort. A question that's in my mind, and it may not be appropriate for this particular early phase of the organizing you all are doing, but heavy on my mind is what we see in terms of the stirring up of vitriol against people in the political sphere, as well as people in our communities. And I know it's only going to intensify as the election campaigns move forward. So I guess my question is, does the Democratic Party of Hawaii have strategies related to monitoring that kind of activity and coordinating responses to some of the ugliness that may emerge?
The short answer is we don't at the party level have that capacity at this moment. Perhaps when we get into 2024, there will be kind of more emphasis on having that structure in place. But until then, we're kind of going to have to wait. The good news is with a local Biden campaign in place, once that ramps up, we'll have at least another voice who can push back if there is something locally that we need to push back on. Nationally, I want to say that the Biden campaign has been a lot more aggressive in pushing back on some of this stuff and kind of not afraid to face it head on. They've also finally deployed Kamala Harris to kind of take a victory lap on certain things and also push back. We saw that with her going to Florida and calling out Governor DeSantis and all of the textbook things that he was trying to do. And I hope we see more of that. But, on an individual level here in the state, we don't really have that, but I hope we do.
Joe, I can tell you, on the party level, we are the response. When it comes to that, this caucus is the front line when it comes to that, what we decide we want to do and how we do that. Without giving too much away, we are working on, there will be other outside resources coming into play later this year. Hopefully, as we put other chess pieces hit the board to help with that. But the party, unfortunately, does not have the resources to do any of that. And that's going to rely on us as well as our friends and our allied organizations.
Right. Thanks, Michael. And I know sometimes you have talked a lot about it's not always useful or strategically helpful to engage in, combat with folks and give them more oxygen. So that's why I think sometimes being thoughtful and helping those of us out kind of in the communities do things that suit, the longer term goals is helpful.
And I think we're going to go on we're on the offense now. We're not playing defense anymore. We're on the offense a lot, and by some of the things we'll be discussing later, I think that's going to knock our opponents off their kilter, because they're going to have to play on multiple different strategies when it comes to the president's race, to the things that we're going to do at the state level. So hopefully we keep them busy enough, and our allied organizations keep them busy enough that they're going to put out their vitriol no matter what we do, but we're now going to be putting out a more positive, forwarding messaging about the things that we have done and the things that we're going to be doing to protect our community and protect the advances we've made. And we can thank the Biden administration for the Respect for Marriage Act and making sure people remember that and clear up some of the misinformation out there, because people are thinking that if Obergefell v. Hodges were ever overturned, that we would lose marriage equality here in the state, and that's not the case. Because of the Respect for Marriage Act, and every state that did a marriage equality through a legislative act will have it, and every marriage will be protected. And the other states that were forced to have marriage equality, they may lose that, but those marriages will not be dissolved, and we will be honoring marriages across the state lines as required by the 14th Amendment. And now that we have the Respect for Marriage Act, and that's some of the things that it's very clear that we do need to do better on our messaging, that we need to make sure that everybody, without the Respect for Marriage Act, and that when Biden signed that into law back in December, that we need to make sure everybody understands the implications of that. And that I think that needs to be part of our calling card as we head into the 2024 elections, that the Biden administration has been at our side, and we need to be at their side and their back as we go into 2024. So do you disagree, Tyler?
That is exactly correct.
Okay. Any other questions for Tyler? Seeing none, on behalf of the caucus, we want to thank you for coming. We look forward to, we'll invite you back whenever you want to come back. Well, not whenever, but within reason.
Yeah.
So, thank you again. If you want to stick around, you're more than welcome to. We're going to stop recording now and head into our regular meeting.
Okay, cool. I'll stick around as a member.